Have you ever noticed how life seems to play hide and seek with your desires? The more you want something, the more it seems to slip away. And even when you follow all the steps, you visualize, affirm, keep your vibration high, that lingering sense of not yet still whispers behind the scenes, as if the universe is always waiting for something more from you. But what if the problem isn't you? What if what you've been taught about manifestation is incomplete? What if by trying to attract what you want, you're actually, without realizing it, confirming that you don't have it yet? What if the secret was never about asking, but about assuming? Today I want to take you on a different kind of journey. A deep dive into the difference between two forces that are often confused, the law of attraction and the law of assumption. And by the end of this video, you might realize that the answer you've been searching for was always hidden in the way you perceive yourself. So go ahead and make a little room for stillness inside you, because this content isn't about memorizing techniques, it's about remembering who you are. And if something already resonated with you just in these first few moments, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. It helps this space grow and continue bringing reflections like this one to you. Now we're ready. Let's walk together and understand why the law of assumption works so much faster than the law of attraction, and how you can make that internal shift without effort, without struggle, and with the natural ease of someone who simply returned home. Why the law of attraction keeps you stuck in not yet. Have you ever noticed how the very language we use when manifesting hides a subtle trap? When we say things like, I want, or one day I'll have, we're unknowingly reinforcing the idea that we don't have it yet. And the universe, or more precisely, the field, mirrors that state of consciousness with laser precision. You vibrate with expectation, and life responds with waiting. You affirm your desire, and reality echoes distance. Constantly visualizing the future without feeling ownership in the present is like placing a reward just one step ahead. You run, you push, but the goal moves along with your belief that it hasn't arrived yet. It's subtle, but deep. The excessive focus on what's ahead traps you even more in the what's not now. Even well-intentioned affirmations, if spoken with anxiety, feed the field of not yet. And the dominant frequency remains one of lack, not abundance. It's like standing at a train station, staring down the tracks. You want it to arrive, you believe it's coming, but every second of waiting becomes a confirmation. It's still not here. And the more you watch, the heavier the time feels, and the more your desire turns into absence. In the vibrational world, that's a signal of lack, and lack only reproduces more of itself. Another example, tossing a coin into a wishing fountain. You make your wish, visualize, hand it over to the universe, and then return to your life exactly as it was before. Nothing changed inside you. The vibration stayed the same. Expectation became superstition disguised as faith, and the field doesn't respond to the request, it responds to the posture that remains. Traditional law of attraction often trains us to think in terms of attracting what is far away. But if something is far, we are automatically emitting the frequency of not having. Wanting becomes an endless cycle of pursuit. It's like chasing your reflection in the mirror. The more you move, the more it pulls away. And this creates spiritual exhaustion, even among the most disciplined. I say this with experience because I've lived through this loop. I had a clear goal, an exact amount of money I wanted to manifest. I did daily visualizations, repeated affirmations with conviction, wrote scripts. But I also kept checking my bank account, comparing myself to those who already had it, and asking myself if I was doing something wrong. Each time I looked at the external reality, I felt that familiar sting. Why hasn't it happened yet? The 3D world became a cruel judge, measuring my spiritual progress, and without realizing it, I was feeding a field of doubt disguised as optimism. The dominant vibration was absence, and the field could only mirror that. Maybe you felt the same. That anxious need to see a sign right away. That silent frustration of doing everything right, and still, nothing. This is the invisible pain of the misunderstood law of attraction. It seems to promise speed, but ends up feeding emotional delay. And the more you wait, the more you confirm that you are still waiting. That's the trap. Waiting becomes identity, desire turns into doubt, and the field, as always, simply returns coherence. Here's the paradox. The vibrational effort to pull something in is already based on the assumption that you are separate from it, and the field responds with more separation. At its core, the law of attraction can keep us stuck in a cycle of lack, unless we change how we see ourselves in relation to the desire. This is where the shift happens. There's another way to position yourself in relation to the reality you want, a more direct, more silent, and far more powerful way. One that doesn't try to attract what's far, but simply assumes that it's already part of who you are. Because the problem was never your desire. The problem is the vibrational space between what you want and what you believe you are right now. And as long as that space exists, the field can only fill it with more waiting. But what if you didn't have to wait anymore? What if you stopped asking and started assuming? What if the universe didn't need convincing, but simply needed to be informed of your new vibrational identity? What if your job wasn't to attract, but simply to assume? That's exactly what we're going to dive into on the next journey. Most people think that manifesting is like a kind of spiritual magnet. You want something, you send out your requests, raise your vibration, and wait for the universe to deliver. But there is a path that is infinitely more direct, more silent, and much faster. A path that doesn't position you as someone trying to attract what you don't have, but as someone who embodies what you already are, even before seeing the evidence. That path is the law of assumption. The law of assumption is based on a simple principle. What you assume as an inner truth begins to organize itself externally. It's not about calling in something distant, it's about putting on an identity. Instead of trying to attract the job, you assume you're already someone successful. Instead of trying to attract love, you assume you're already worthy and chosen. That change may seem subtle, but it's seismic. The law of attraction operates in the realm of desire. The law of assumption operates in the realm of identity. And identity always overrides desire, because identity is what your subconscious truly obeys. That's why it works so quickly. There are no vibrational intermediaries. Let's simplify it. Law of attraction. I want, I try to attract. Law of assumption. I assume and I act as someone who already has it. One vibrates lack, the other vibrates presence. One vibrates expectation, the other vibrates certainty. Assuming is like changing the channel on a TV. You don't have to attract channel 7 to your screen, you just tune to its frequency. The content already exists, it's already being broadcast. You're not creating the program, you're simply accessing it. Reality works the same way. Another powerful analogy is the expansion pack in video games. When you activate the expansion, you don't just get one new item. You unlock new missions, new skills, new environments. The state brings the whole package. Assuming a new self automatically triggers thoughts, behaviors, and opportunities that align with that state. This becomes even clearer when we look at personal experiences. There was a time in my life when I stopped asking for things to go right and started assuming internally. Good things always happen to me. That phrase became my emotional breathing, and without even noticing, my behavior began to change. Suddenly, I found myself making more confident decisions, feeling less afraid to take risks, noticing opportunities I used to overlook, as if my internal world had pushed the external onto a new path. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was living as someone who had already received. What's most incredible is that you don't need evidence to assume. In fact, assuming is the vibrational evidence. The field doesn't respond to proof, it responds to posture. And when you change your posture, the field reorganizes everything around it. Neville said it best: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So let me ask you something right now, right here at this point in the video. If you had to choose one word that represents the state you want to assume today, what would it be? Write that word in the comments. Make it your vibrational seal, your silent commitment to the new you. Declare to yourself, this is what I'm choosing now, because that word is more than a word. It is the beginning of your new identity. And when you declare the identity, the universe declares the path. You're not asking, you're informing who you are. And reality always responds to, I am. And here begins the great revelation of why the law of assumption works so quickly. Assuming sends a direct message to your subconscious, and it's your subconscious that actually orchestrates your perception, your decisions, and your results. When identity changes, the world changes. But to understand that speed, we need to look at the brain. Because there's a hidden mechanism inside your mind, a neurological filter that decides what you notice, what you ignore, and what you create. A mechanism that explains why assuming works so fast, and why simply wanting often feels so slow. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into in the next topic. On the next journey, we're going to explore the role of the subconscious and the RS, the system that shapes your reality without you even realizing it, and why it responds instantly when you assume a new state. True manifestation doesn't happen on the plane of conscious will. It happens on the silent plane of assumed identity, and that's where the subconscious comes in. It doesn't argue, it doesn't question, it doesn't ask for proof. It simply accepts what you emotionally repeat as truth. But there's more. Inside your brain, there's a system called the RAS, the reticular activating system. It acts like a filter, deciding what gets in and what gets left out of your perception. You see what your RAS deems relevant, and what it considers relevant is what you most often assume to be true. If you believe you're always running late, the RAS will highlight the clock, the traffic, the unexpected delays. If you believe you're being rejected, it will focus on averted gazes, unanswered messages, subtle exclusions. If you assume you're lucky, the RAS starts showing you coincidences, openings, and magical encounters. Nothing changed outside, but your perception became a selective lens. That's why assumption works with such precision, because when you declare I am, you send a direct command to your subconscious, and it in turn reorganizes the focus of your brain. You begin to see what previously went unnoticed. You tune into a reality that already existed, but you couldn't perceive it. Maybe this has happened to you. You learn a new word, and on the same day it shows up in a song, a conversation, or a social media post. Or you think about buying a red car, and suddenly it seems like the streets are filled with red cars. That's not magic. That's your RAS at work. You declared importance, the brain complied, and reality began to reveal what had been invisible before. The same thing happens with your deepest beliefs. If you keep repeating that money is hard to come by, your RAS will show you scarcity, high prices, closed doors. But if you assume money comes in unexpected ways, your inner system starts picking up on opportunities that were always there. You don't create opportunities, you begin to notice them. That's exactly what happened to me when I rewired a very old belief. I grew up hearing that you had to fight hard for everything, but one day I decided to try the assumption. There is lightness even in what seems difficult, and it was impressive how my posture and life's responses all began to shift. The point here isn't to believe it to see it, it's to assume in order to perceive. You become what your subconscious understands as normal, and what feels normal to you repeats itself effortlessly. Assumption is about normalizing the state that once felt distant. That's why it's so much faster than just wishing or visualizing. Because you're not trying to build something out there, you're shifting your internal point of emission, and that makes the field reorganize everything around you. To assume is to go straight to the root of creation, identity. And identity isn't mental, it's felt. That's why saying I am prosperous without feeling prosperity changes nothing. But when you feel, even for a few seconds, that you already are someone within that state, the field responds almost instantly. Manifestation starts to happen not through effort, but as a reflection. You assume the I am, the RAS responds, and reality bends toward the new direction of your focus. But there's an even subtler layer behind all of this, a layer that explains why your external reality often feels delayed, even when you've already assumed the internal state. It's what some call quantum time, where consciousness shapes the invisible path before it ever becomes visible. And to truly understand this, we need to step out of the 3D for a moment and enter the 4D, the field where all possibilities already exist, even if they haven't materialized yet. In the next journey, we'll dive into the difference between the visible world and the creator world, the 3D and the 4D, and understand why real change happens long before the manifestation appears on the screen of your life. The reality you touch with your hands is not the beginning of creation. It's the end. Everything that manifests in 3D is just the final reflection of something that has already been written in the invisible. This invisible plane is the 4D, the space of consciousness, imagination, and vibration. It is there that the script of your life is constantly being rewritten, and it is there that the law of assumption operates. 3D is like a movie screen. You see the events, the dialogues, the settings, but the film was recorded long before. Trying to change the 3D without altering the 4D is like arguing with the screen instead of editing the script. It's frustrating, repetitive, and ineffective. You fight with the scene and without realizing that you could simply write a new one. In 4D, all possibilities already exist. Success and failure, love and rejection, abundance and scarcity. It's all there, in the form of vibrational potentials. And you, as the observer, collapse the possibility that matches the frequency you sustain. It's like opening a book where all the pages are already printed. The reading follows the order you choose to vibrate in. Neville Goddard described this as the block of time. All the stories are already written, but your consciousness can move between them. There is no fixed future. There is only a fixed frequency, and that frequency decides which storyline you will experience in 3D. Maybe you've felt this intuitively before, a déjà vu that felt a little too familiar, a dream that months later came true in detail, a sense of, I've seen this before. In fact, you have, in the 4D. This field of imagination is not fantasy. It's vibrational pre-construction. And when you assume a new identity, you're signaling to the 4D which script you want to activate. The universe is not testing you. It is simply syncing with what you've already written in silence. Many people get stuck trying to fix what shows up on the screen. They react to the scene, resist the results, reinforce what they don't want. But those who live only in 3D forget that control is not in the scene. It's in the internal position of the one who observes. It's in who you are being right now. That's why, instead of just visualizing what you want, ask yourself, which version of me is writing this script? Is it a version that waits, that complains, that asks for permission to change? Or is it a version that decides, that assumes, that already lives what it has chosen? Real change happens at that point in the vibrational backstage. And it's here that I want to invite you to a conscious pause. Breathe. Close your eyes for a moment. If you could change your script right now, not through external circumstances, but by who you are choosing to be, who would that new character be? Now come back here with me. In the comments, write a short phrase as if you were already living the new script. Something simple like, I am someone who lives in peace, or my life is light and abundant. Feel this phrase in your body, and then share it with the field. This phrase is not just a declaration for the video, it's a vibrational anchoring. It's you hearing yourself, giving yourself permission, rewriting yourself. When you write it, you anchor it. And when you anchor it, the 4D begins to align with the new script. The big key here is understanding that you don't need to convince the world. You just need to align the script, because the 3D will always echo the 4D. Sooner or later, the screen will display what you're already living internally, and that completely changes the way you manifest. But there is one subtle detail that makes this practice even more powerful. It's not enough to write a new script. You must place yourself inside the story as someone who's already living the happy ending. It's about living in the end, not imagining the beginning. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. In our next journey, we'll dive into the vibrational difference between visualizing a distant desire and inhabiting the end of the journey, where everything has already worked out and you're simply the one who receives. There is a huge energetic difference between visualizing something and living as someone who has already arrived there. Visualization, when done from a place of desire, still carries the frequency of distance. It's the I don't have it yet disguised as positivity. Living in the end, on the other hand, dissolves time. When you live in the end, you're not asking, you're remembering. You're not trying to create, you're recognizing. The frequency is no longer lack of, it's ownership of. It's like watching a movie when you already know the ending. The tension eases, confidence settles in, the vibration shifts. Visualizing the beginning often keeps us trapped in the cycle of effort. We imagine the job interview, the initial conversation, the first step, but the body still vibrates uncertainty, expectation, control. In the end, you're already the one who got hired, celebrating years of fulfillment. And that's the vibration that collapses time. By living in the end, the desire stops being a goal and becomes a natural state. You no longer need to project because you're already there. Your identity vibrates in alignment with what you desire, and the field simply mirrors that coherence. It's like leaving the waiting line and sitting at the table as the guest of honor. The vibration shifts because your internal position has changed. You're no longer outside looking in. You are part of the story you always wished to live. Imagine someone who wants to manifest a romantic relationship. Visualizing the moment of being asked out might help, but it still vibrates future. Now imagine living in the end. You're already the couple, lying on the couch, laughing at an inside joke, living the ordinariness of real love. That emits a completely different field. The same goes for finances, health, purpose. Don't visualize the first payment. Visualize yourself years later sharing your journey with someone saying, "It was incredible how everything flowed since that moment." That is the end. That is the collapse of time. I remember a time when I used to visualize every day, but I always saw myself beginning, starting the project, receiving the first message, taking the first step. And even though there was intention, the dominant feeling was still waiting. It was only when I began to imagine myself after the victory that everything started to flow more smoothly. The feeling was different. My body relaxed, my mind quieted. There was no more anxiety to see signs, because somehow my field was already fulfilled. The desire stopped being a request. It became presence. This practice teaches the body to stop seeking. And when the body stops seeking, the field stops delaying. You no longer vibrate attempt, you vibrate reality. And reality does not resist coherence. It bends, it confirms, it responds. It's subtle but powerful. Living in the end is the difference between trying to create and simply being. And being has more power than any intention, because being is vibrating, effortlessly, without doubt, without the need for control. It's the point of least resistance and greatest collapse. But to live in this state consistently, you need to take care of a key element: the way you see yourself, your self-image, your self-concept. In our next journey, we're going to explore how the way you see yourself, your self-image, can either accelerate or completely sabotage your manifestations, even when you're doing everything right. You can affirm, visualize, meditate, but if your self-image is still vibrating unworthy, your field will keep organizing experiences to confirm that. Manifestation doesn't just obey what you want, it mostly obeys what you believe yourself to be. The self-concept is like a silent code that defines your vibrational ceiling. It doesn't matter how many times you say, "He loves me," if deep down you still see yourself as someone forgettable or rejectable. The field doesn't respond to words, it responds to the identity behind them. It's like trying to program a new destination in a GPS without changing your current location. You can dream of another place, but the system still tracks you from the starting point. That's why many manifestations begin to form, but don't sustain themselves. Maybe you've experienced this. You manifested something you truly wanted, a relationship, a sum of money, an opportunity, but then you lost it, sabotaged it, watched it slip through your fingers, and you were left with the feeling that something inside pulled you back. That something is the old self-image, if at any level you still see yourself as unworthy, someone who always has to fight, or the one who's never chosen, then your reality will, sooner or later, reflect that state, even if you're using all the right techniques. This isn't punishment, it's vibrational coherence. The field seeks consistency between what you vibrate and what you live, and your identity carries the strongest frequency of all. It's the origin point behind every choice you make. In Indigo's video, she compares this to installing a lens into your system. If you assume manifestation is hard, even the easiest things will become a maze. But if you assume, "I always get what I want with ease," then everything begins to follow that new script. Have you noticed that some people don't know how to manifest, but keep receiving everything they want? Maybe because without even realizing it, they naturally embody an identity aligned with abundance. It's not luck, it's a well-installed self-concept. Changing your self-concept isn't about repeating mantras in the mirror. It's about asking, who do I believe I am when no one's watching? It's about rewriting old stories, letting go of inherited labels, and allowing a new me to take center stage. There was a time when I manifested a relationship that seemed perfect, but unconsciously, I still saw myself as the one who's always left behind. That belief sabotaged everything, even with positive signs around. It was only when I started affirming internally, I'm always chosen naturally, that everything began to shift. The new self-concept doesn't need to be perfect or artificial. It just needs to be rehearsed until it feels natural, until the body says, this is who I am now. And when that happens, the field responds with synchronicity, not as a miracle, but as a reflection. The law of assumption works faster when you assume a new emotional identity before seeking external evidence, because who you are to yourself is who you'll be to the universe. But to anchor that new identity, understanding isn't enough. You need to practice. And for that, there are simple and powerful techniques that help you step into that state with more clarity, presence, and power. In the next journey, we're going to explore practical tools to embody your new identity more lightly, even when the mind still resists and the body hasn't fully believed yet. Assuming a new state doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the more directly it reaches the field, because the field doesn't respond to long formulas, it responds to vibrational clarity. And one of the most powerful techniques comes from Neville Goddard, SATS, state akin to sleep. It's a state of light drowsiness between waking and sleeping, when the subconscious is most receptive. In that moment, you plant the scene like a living seed. But not just any scene, a short, specific moment that could only happen after the manifestation, like someone telling you, congratulations, it worked. The secret isn't to build a full movie. It's to choose an image that carries the feeling of already done. Not the job interview, but the message saying you've been selected. Not the first date, but the memory of you both laughing on the couch. Not a full bank account, but the feeling of relief as you check your balance. This scene must be replayed in first person, eyes closed, as if you were reliving something that already happened. It's not pretending, it's vibrational training. You rehearse a future memory until it becomes familiar. And the more familiar it becomes, the more your body starts to accept it as natural. And when something feels natural, the field recognizes it as truth. The subconscious doesn't argue whether it's real or not. It simply mirrors. And that mirror begins to shift your posture in the world. I remember a phase when I used a simple scene. My best friend sending me a voice message saying, "Man, I knew it was going to work for you. I just knew it." I repeated that for days before sleeping, without pressure. Until one day, the real message came. That's when I understood. The technique isn't about forcing, it's about installing. Repetition isn't insistence, it's energetic imprinting. It's making familiar what once felt distant. It's dissolving the resistance between what you want and who you are. And when you start practicing this with ease, without expecting immediate signs, without anxiety, without obsession, you'll be surprised by how quickly things begin to shift. So now pause with me. Breathe. Feel. If you could choose one short sentence, one simple phrase that represents the state you choose to assume today, what would that sentence be? Write it in the comments. It could be something like, I am someone who lives with purpose. Everything flows with ease in my world. I am loved and chosen. Choose a phrase that makes you feel already there, because by naming that state, you begin to inhabit it. Now your mind might still doubt. It might try to sabotage, it might look for proof. But learning how to deal with those doubts without collapsing is what separates those who live in the field from those who just visit. In the next journey, we'll talk about how to deal with doubts, with 3D reality and those moments when nothing seems to be happening, without sabotaging everything you've already started to build vibrationally. Even when you're on the right path, there will be days of silence, days when the 3D seems unresponsive, unmoved, unreflective. And in those moments, it's easy to fall into the trap of doubt. But doubt, by itself, isn't the problem. It only becomes sabotage when you believe it's telling the truth. Doubtful thoughts will appear, it's natural. What defines your power is not eliminating them, but refusing to let them define your new identity. You can observe without absorbing. Saying, "This is just my old self trying to come back," already shifts your vibrational posture. You stop being the doubt and return to being the observer. And at that point, you're not lost, you're realigned. You breathe and decide, even with the doubt, I move forward. The biggest temptation is to use the 3D as a judge. You affirm something new and immediately look around to see if it's changed. But 3D is just the delayed reflection of your past frequency. If you use it as your current reference, you fall back into the loop. It's like opening the oven every 2 minutes to check if the cake has risen. Every time you open it, the temperature shifts and the process slows down. The quantum field works the same way. It responds to the stability of your inner state. Constantly checking is a sign of distrust. Another common mistake is digging up the seed. You plant a vibrational intention, but check on it every day to see if it's sprouted. And in this back and forth of expectation, you interrupt the rooting. Trust needs stillness. I've lived this in many manifestations. Anxious to see results, I would test, question, check. And every time I did, it was like telling the field, I don't really believe. Only when I stopped pressuring did things begin to move. This isn't about pretending you don't want it. It's about resting in certainty. You decide you already are and then let the field work in silence. You no longer need to chase, you need to sustain the state. It's like breathing. You don't have to think about it for it to work. It flows because it's integrated. Manifestation flows too, when your new state becomes your baseline frequency. And that only happens when you stop measuring time. Yes, 3D reality will test you, but the test isn't proof of failure. It's proof that something is shifting internally. The absence of signs is often a sign that the field is rearranging itself. Silence is a stage of creation. And the more you embrace the timing of the field, the faster it responds. Because you're no longer interrupting the process with anxiety. You're cooperating with the manifestation, not guarding it. You're co-creating with trust. But maybe you're still wondering, okay, but how does this translate into real life? In money, love, purpose? How do these laws apply practically in situations involving decisions, relationships, and concrete paths? That's exactly what we're going to explore in the next section. In the next journey, we'll explore real-life cases and practical comparisons between the law of attraction and the law of assumption, showing how the simple shift in identity completely transforms the outcomes in areas like money, love, and purpose. Now that you understand the vibrational foundations, it's time to bring all of this down into practical life, because it's in the small details of everyday living that we notice the real difference between trying to manifest something and assuming that it's already part of who you are. Let's start with money. In the law of attraction, the posture is usually, I want a lot of money, I visualize receiving it, I affirm abundance. But that wanting still vibrates lack. The field responds with more weighting. In the law of assumption, the position shifts. I'm someone for whom money is natural. That state changes your decisions, your posture, your expression, even your tone of voice. You begin to behave like someone who already has it, and that activates opportunities, ideas, and connections you used to ignore. In love, the contrast is even more visible. Through the law of attraction, many people make lists, visualize dates, repeat, I'm going to find my soulmate, but they still see themselves as lonely, unchosen, or lacking, and the field simply confirms that vibrational identity. Through the law of assumption, the phrase changes. I am someone who is loved, easy to love, always chosen. That state shifts boundaries, patterns of choice, and the perception of self-worth. You don't try to be seen, you become magnetic, and that transforms the kind of connection that comes your way. In work and purpose, the difference follows the same principle. Visualizing the ideal job from the perspective of attraction still carries the expectation of someday. Assuming I am someone who lives aligned with my purpose makes you start acting like that person now. Small actions change. You begin to say no to what distracts you. You say yes to what expands you, even without guarantees. You access courage not because everything is certain, but because now you live from the inside out. I could tell you real stories of people who stopped asking and started assuming. A woman who used to affirm love, but always chose emotionally unavailable partners. Until one day she decided to become, I am the one who is chosen with certainty. She didn't wait for proof. She shifted her posture, and that alone was enough to attract something entirely different. A man who visualized financial success, but still saw himself as a survivor. When he switched from I need to win to I'm someone who already lives with ease, his business started to flow more lightly. Not because he found a new strategy, but because he became a new frequency. A young man lost in doubts about purpose began to affirm, I am someone who finds meaning in everything I do. That simple assumption awakened in him the sensitivity to notice signs, open conversations, accept invitations, and in a short time, he was already in a different reality. Life changes when you change the who. You don't need the universe to notice you. You need to notice yourself as someone who already has. Because everything that comes to you comes because of who you're being. And now that we've walked together through every layer of this path, maybe you're beginning to realize manifestation is not a technique, it's a way of being. Now that you've discovered all the pillars of the law of assumption, it's time to integrate everything and turn this journey into a living, coherent, and constant practice. Let's close this immersion with presence. And now that you've walked with me through every layer of this journey, tell me honestly, in which part of the path were you still trying to attract, when in truth, you only needed to assume? Which part of you was still asking for permission to have, instead of simply being? Maybe you've realized that the shift doesn't begin when the universe brings you something. It begins when you stop waiting, when you choose to move like someone who already has, speak like someone who already is, breathe like someone who has already arrived. Because deep down, you were never just the beggar. You were always the creator. And the field never wanted you to fight harder. It just wanted you to remember who you are without needing external proof to validate it. Now I invite you to see things with new eyes. What once felt like a delay, maybe it was just a reflection of the not yet you were vibrating. But today, you can write a new script and live in it like someone who belongs. Tell me in the comments, what was the biggest shift this video brought you? Which insight helped you see more clearly? And if you want to share something more intimate, write in one sentence, I am, and complete it with the new state you've chosen to assume. Your sharing might be the vibrational mirror another soul needed to find right now. So write it down. Leave your frequency registered below. And if this content touched something inside you, if it awakened clarity, peace, or even that silence that embraces, like the video, hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. This space is for you, for your expansion, to remind you every day that you don't need to chase what is already yours. Because in the end, you don't manifest what you desire, you manifest what you assume. And your new reality begins the moment you choose to move as someone who already lives in it.